country of Ethiopia is home to over 100 million people, 80 different ethnic groups such as the Basketo, Bodi, Dime, Dongo, Gemo, Hamar, Como, Karo, Male, and She, and out of the 100 million people living in Ethiopia, 31% of all of these people live below the poverty line. The country of Ethiopia is led by Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn and President Mulatu Teshome, and the country is controlled under a federal parliamentary republic. Several factors were responsible for the refugee crisis in Ethiopia. The repressive Mengistu regime was ruthless in its treatment of both real and imagined opponents. During the so-called Red Terror of 1977 to 1978, government security forces killed thousands of students and urban professionals. Because human rights violations characterized the government's policy towards dissidents, there was a constant exodus of young and educated people. The regime also found itself engaged in continuous civil war with one or more of the insurgent groups, which had a devastating impact on the people, the land, and the economy. The fighting not only generated hundreds of thousands of refugees, but also displaced thousands of other people from their farms and villages. Forcible villagization and resettlement also generated refugees. Famine also contributed to Ethiopia's refugee crises. The 1984 to 1985 famine resulted in the death or displacement of hundreds of thousands of people within Ethiopia and forced about 100,000 people into Somalia, 10,000 into Djibouti, and more than 300,000 into Sudan. Another huge factor that contributed to the Ethiopian refugee crises are the many droughts that occurred within the country. In 1987, a deadly drought threatened 5 million people in Eritrea and Tigray. Insurgents belonging to the TPLF and EPLF attacked convoys carrying food supplies or denied them access to rebel-held areas. The consequence was more deaths and more refugees. The problems that contribute to the refugee crises in Ethiopia have the same characteristics and patterns as they did in the mid to late 1900s. However, today, these problems have amplified to something much larger. Young Ethiopians are fleeing the country at alarming rates for many reasons. These reasons include mass poverty, rising costs of living, fast climbing youth unemployment rates, lack of opportunities for the less politically connected, the economy's over-reliance on the service sector, and the requirement of party membership as a condition to employment. However, these are not the only components involved with the mass amounts of refugees leaving Ethiopia. Another key reason is the fact that youths do not trust the government at all now these days. Therefore, the majority of Ethiopian refugees are political migrants fleeing persecution. Refugees leaving Ethiopia are fleeing to neighboring areas such as Yemen, Kenya, Egypt, Somalia, and Sudan. There are nearly 7,000 registered Ethiopian refugees in Yemen, over 20,000 registered Ethiopian refugees in Kenya, 3,000 registered Ethiopian refugees in Egypt, 10,000 registered Ethiopian refugees in Somalia, and close to 300,000 registered Ethiopian refugees in Sudan.